Okay, well, it's just realizing that life has its own, no matter what it doesn't matter if you're lower class, dirt poor, middle class, or filthy rich, you still have problems because that's the human reality. Those problems change
Yeah.
or become a different set of problems. But either way, it's basically like you have to choose which problems you like solving consistently because you're always going to have problems no matter what.
I love it. Yeah.
And there's
So
more
true.
nuance to that, but
I love it. All right, let's go. Here we go. Dude, what's up, man? Just the intro is getting me pumped up, man. The new countdown timer. What's up, Hayden Allred? How are you, bud?
morning. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Trey Griggs here, Beta Consulting Group. Welcome, everybody, to Iron Minds, episode 15. We're going to get a good workout today. We're going to talk today about how to get yourself out of a funk when you're in a little bit of a funk. Hopefully, we got some cats that are going to be waking up and joining us today. I'm doing arms today. I'm doing shoulders, biceps, and triceps today. So we're going to get after it. How was your weekend, bro?
It was a weekend. It was pretty good. Watched the fights on Saturday per the usual, and did a week's worth of laundry to catch up from the previous week.
Nice. I actually watched a little UFC again.
You certainly did.
2 weeks in a row, we did a little live texting while we were watching, and I was asking questions, and you were telling me everything I need to know about UFC, which I appreciate. So, good stuff. All right. So today, man, we're going to talk about how to get yourself out of a funk. And I think, we talked about it beforehand. Both you and I have been in a little funk from time to time in our life.
Yeah.
It happens.
Life is such.
Life is such. It does happen. And, I think the reason you get in a funk is because I think you start to cruise. You start to just like put it on cruise control, on autopilot. And you don't think, there's no intention. You're just kind of just floating along. I remember back in the day, I could eat whatever I wanted. And I never gained weight. I was always in shape. But I was also playing sports all the time. So I had to, you got to keep that in mind. And life happens. You have kids, you have a job, you got a yard to cut and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Changes the priorities. And I'm realizing now in my 40s, especially, stuff has to be intentional, man. I got to get out of bed. I got to get started. But you get in those little funks every once in a while where you're just like, I just don't want to do it.
We can start with this morning, for example. I did not want to get out of bed, but I knew I fell asleep and collapsed on my commitment last week, and I was like, all right, 1, 2, 3, just kind of threw myself out of it. But at the end of the day,
2 weeks in a row.
If I'm being honest, I mean, it's my own fault both times. I stayed up way too late.
Right.
It's my fault. I didn't, prioritize sleep. That's been a tough thing lately, actually. But
yeah, I hear you. Yeah, you couldn't do 2 weeks in a row. That'd be embarrassing.
No, you put me on blast, and I won't allow that.
All right.
Josh Harrison, you owe me $20.
What if he's up this morning? Josh Harrison, if you're watching.
Oh, he's up. He's already put in 42 miles this morning, probably.
He was running by 3 a.m.
Just like a casual 42, nothing crazy.
Yeah, right. Just a smooth run. 7 minutes and 30-second miles.
Just a stretch.
No deal. Yeah, just a stretch. Oh, we had quite the incident this weekend. So this is not what you want. We had a police officer show up at our house at 4 a.m. on Saturday morning. And the good news is my dog was on point. Like, my dog started barking. And so, of course, I got up, and the doorbell hadn't rung. Nobody knocked on the door. We got up, went out, and looked around just to see what was kind of, what got under his skin. And nothing was there. He was like, Tiger, come back to bed. So he comes back to bed. Well, then, of course, our doorbell rings. He goes crazy again. I'm like, well, at least he's sensitive to what's going on outside, so that's good. But it was a crazy situation. My youngest daughter was actually at a lock-in at church. And so we were, my first thought was like, maybe something happened there, which was a horrible thought. As what's up, Freight Sensei? Scott Watanabe.
Morning, Scott.
Today. Morning, Scott. But so we're like, police officer at our door at 4 a.m. and our daughter's out, for the night with the youth group. So we were freaking out.
Scary.
Well, then he goes, I'm looking for Glenn Wilson Griggs III. I said, that's me. He goes, do you have an RV parked at Broadway Ford? I said, I do. He goes, I'm so sorry. I'm just here to tell you that your RV was totaled. We were like, what? Like,
excuse me?
How? What happened? So, dude, as it turns out, very sad, very tragic. Unfortunately, a woman was driving a Toyota Camry on the highway, went off the road, went through the fence at the parking lot where our RV was being serviced, and smashed into the back of it, caught on fire, and she lost her life, dude. Very sad situation.
That really is, man.
Yeah, we went down and tried to retrieve some items from it afterwards, tried to salvage them, but it was just it was like smoky and silt and everything. It's just terrible. So that was a really sad part of our weekend.
That's all.
Spent all day Saturday working on trying to clean that stuff up. But it's like the whole weekend we kept thinking how much worse it would have been to be that person's family that had a police officer show up and let them know that their loved one was no longer with us. So we're like, this is just stuff. It sucks, but it's just stuff. And, thankful to have our life, thankful to be here. So,
Yeah, it's definitely a kick in the stomach, but, at the end of the day, material things can be replaced.
Right.
Even though more difficult, and then it creates the problem of having to deal with the insurance and everything else. But the important things are still intact.
That's right. First world problems that we have. Talk to our kids about it too. About so glad that we weren't in it. So glad that nothing was lost. It's of real value. I kept telling my kids, I can never have another Naomi. I can never have another Hannah. We can get another RV if that works out or whatever, but we can't replace people. And it's a good moment just to remind ourselves and everyone else the value of people over stuff, which I think sometimes we forget.
Yeah.
Sometimes we put stuff over people, which is wrong.
Chasing these, we live in a very materialistic world.
Yeah.
And it's no matter how grounded you are, based in reality, you are the human element of the world we live in. We are still subject to the environment we live in. And part of that is chasing those glamorous things. Society kind of tells us we need the biggest house, we need the fanciest cars, or whatever the case might be.
We actually probably would do ourselves a service by getting rid of a lot of stuff. But we oftentimes don't think that way.
I'm battling that right now. I need to get rid of my truck just because of the cost of gas right now, and just to be more efficient, just because it's really not that important to have the car I want. But at the same time, when you're 6'3", 6'4", and you've tried a car before and you've always had a truck, it's real difficult.
Brutal.
But I digress.
So let's talk real quick about some times in our life where we were stuck. I've got a couple times, I think you do too. What's one that really sticks out to you that you just felt stuck, and what did you do to get out of it?
2014, 2015, I had, at this point I graduated in 2012 from college, and that was the end of my baseball career after 18 years.
Which is weird, right?
It's very weird because you have so much of your identity tied up into that. That's who you are, right?
Yeah, right around. That's right. Yeah.
It's kind of like being a soldier coming home and ending your duty. It's just like, that's who I am. What do I do? So started work life and started out at AT&T as a fiber technician for UVerse, and then decided I didn't want to do that and went on to sell cars with a buddy who I played ball with in college, who was a finance manager. And if anybody knows me, one of the common traits that everyone knows me by, unfortunately, it's kind of gross, is the amount of food I eat. And, when you're at a car dealership for 12, 14-hour days, get food catered to you 3-4 times a week, and you eat like I do, you quickly start putting on weight, and I got almost up to 260 pounds, which I've never, been close to in my life. I think the heaviest I've ever been at any point in my life was, 215. And, so I got pretty obese, dude. And there's a point where, and I can still remember it vividly, man, where I could not look myself in the mirror anymore because I had been making poor decisions. I had stopped working out completely because I felt like I didn't have a reason to anymore. Baseball is gone. Like, why do I need to work out?
Right.
I'm eating, 6,000 calories a day, every day. No running, no physical activity at all. Before I know it, I can't reach down to put my boots on or tie my shoes without my stomach pushing really hard into my belt buckle, causing, discomfort. It's like, what happened? And it got to the point where I think for the first time in my life, I felt what people refer to as depression. I really felt it. Like I said, I could not look myself in the mirror. And it got to the point where I just said, to hell with this. Like, I'm done. My own pain and frustration with myself was finally much greater than what it felt like to take action and do something about it. I was like, at all costs. So I literally, and this is, I think, one of the key points anytime you want to get out of rut, is I took inventory and kind of was very honest with myself. It's like, how did I get to this point? Like, it's my fault. It's not the world's fault. Society didn't do this to me. Like, I did this to me. I'm choosing to shovel crap food all day into my mouth. I'm choosing not to take care of my body. These are all choices that I made subconsciously without wanting the result that comes with those choices. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, that's it. And I went on a absolute insane run for 4 weeks to lose almost 40 pounds. I had a 2,000 calorie max per day. I was intermittent fasting with an 18-hour fast, 6-hour eating window. I did superset compound lifts every other day, meaning bench press to bent over row, squat to deadlift. And then I finished every workout and Tuesday and Thursday with 30-minute sprint intervals. So I was basically at a pretty deep caloric deficit, lifting a lot of heavy weights at a lot of intensity, and then doing a ton of cardio after the fact. It's not it's not the quote unquote healthiest way to do things. People are more like slow and progressive because you keep it. I wanted to get rid of as much bad weight as I could to get down to a fundamental foundation to build upon. And I got down to 215 or so in just shy of 4 weeks. So I kind of took it to the extreme. But I'm glad I did that. That was
and you talked about it earlier. That's kind of who you are. A high intensity, all or nothing kind of guy. And, you know it about yourself. And sometimes you got to work with that. I had a similar situation, not quite the same as yours, but when I was 32, we had 2 kids now, under the age of 2. And, when you have small kids, life slows down sometimes. They're sitting there. Before we had kids, I was playing basketball for 2-3 hours on a Saturday morning every week. I was, staying in relatively good shape in my 20s after playing college basketball. And then when the kids came around, my Saturday morning basketball ended up becoming Saturday morning sit around with the kids, watch them develop, watch them push up and learn to roll on the floor and all those things that, with little kids. And by the time I was, 33, 34, I'd gotten up to almost 200 pounds. I'm 5'8". I'm a little guy. So 200 pounds is pretty, I never saw the 2 in front of, the first number 2. It was 196 or 197 I got up to. And my wife was also, she'd gained some weight too. And so we just kind of got to a place in 2012, we were like, no more. And so we basically did a drastic change in our eating diet. We didn't start working out yet because it's so uncomfortable. When you're overweight, it's uncomfortable to work out. I don't know how you did it.
It sucks. Yeah.
And so we just did a massive change in our diet, and I lost 42 pounds in 7 or 8 weeks just by changing what I eat.
Yeah.
And I got down to 155, which was my college basketball playing weight. I felt so great again. I wanted to run. I wanted to work out. And I did P90X. That was the best shape of my life when I was 34.
Yeah.
But it was kind of an all or nothing thing. We had to just change everything about the way that we were eating. get all the crap out of the house. And fortunately, my wife and I were doing it together. And our kids were so small that we didn't have the pressure of our kids like asking for stuff. They just ate whatever we put in front of them. So that worked out really well. But that was, it was a conscious decision for us to say, no more. We're not going to do it anymore. And I wish I could say that we were still at that place. I've put something back on since then, but at least I know, like when I was 30 and I was still in good shape and I was still eating whatever I wanted, I just didn't think about. I wasn't intentional. I still wasn't thinking. I was just living. And as lifestyles change and as circumstances and priorities change, you got to change with it.
Yeah.
And that's really really important. I'm not sure if Scott's talking about you or me. Probably you, because what you did was crazy. But
you, obviously.
Yeah, right. But the other thing I was going to think about was, like just recently for you. So that was a good story you told about, years ago. But just this year, you've kind of had that experience as well. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, it's been kind of a whirlwind of 2 years, which a little crazy, but it's also one of my coolest sales stories. In 2020, middle of the year, I had taken a leap of faith and left Worldwide Express, where I was kind of known as a consistent top performer within the organization. Had a great book of business, only been there 2.5 years. Had, tenure, life was good, but I got the opportunity to go take a director position at Global Trans to lead a new division they were trying to get up off the ground, and didn't have a lot of time to make a decision. And being a competitor, there's always so much information they could share with me about the job or the role, the actual details to make sure I could make a good informed decision. But I kind of slept on it and decided that, okay, been doing this less than 3 years. Nobody in my position is going to get an opportunity to lead something like this I was like, so I'm going to take a leap of faith. And my life mantra, I said, I'm going to jump off the cliff and build my wings on the way down, or I'm going to fall. But either way, if I pull this off, I'm going to create a legacy for myself. Or if I don't, well, I'm a hell of a salesman for cold calling a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company and creating a position for myself out of thin air.
Take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, it's been, but despite whatever emotions, the struggle, the anxieties, the fear that were happening in that moment, they became lessons learned, and I'm really glad they happened in hindsight, which is almost impossible to appreciate them in the moment because, the emotions you're flooded with. But to get me to where I am now, went from there to Global Trans to Unishippers franchise to Emerge. Now I'm over at Truckbook, and I'm psyched to be where I'm at. And I've only been here a few weeks, and I've already gotten so much traction out the gate compared to these other positions I was in. And I've learned something about myself. I used to, the whole SaaS technology or selling to enterprise accounts only, the longer sales cycle, quote unquote, the sexier conversations, the allure of it. I thought that's what I wanted and thought that's where my interests lie, my motivating factors. And it's not. I actually now prefer, I'm realizing, is the shorter sales cycle stuff, just constantly stack wins, because I'm a momentum player, right? Momentum is difficult to break, whether good or bad. But learning more about myself and, really keeping a close circle of friends that I can talk to and they can give me, unbiased insight. I thrive in an environment where I can get traction and wins much more quickly than a long, drawn-out, big ordeal that could go wrong because of the disconnected communication that it takes, or just the sales cycle that it takes. So, being where I'm at now, dude, I'm very thankful. I'm excited again. I can actually feel excitement and belief in what I'm doing, as opposed to putting a mask on and just trying to tell everyone, no, I believe in this. I am excited about it. Yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And just that feeling is so much more freeing. So, I wake up without having the anxiety and the stress that comes along with trying to put that facade on all day. It can actually breathe a little bit, So it's been a wild 2 years of just ups, downs, inconsistencies, instability. So mentally, right now, I'm pretty thankful for those trials and tribulations. to learn more about myself. And, again, I got to meet great people along the way with some pretty key relationships. You, for example, that maybe I would not have, that maybe not would have happened otherwise. So
Right.
it's like I'm taking the good from each chapter along the way,
Yeah.
and looking at it as it was a stepping stone to get me to where I needed to be, but it was a necessary stepping stone, or else X and Y wouldn't have happened, or I wouldn't have met so and so, to get me to where I'm at now. So
Right.
that's kind of how I look at it.
Every step of the way, you got to be thankful for what happened, and everything happens for a reason. I mean, exactly what you're saying. Like, yeah, you could have stayed at Worldwide Express. You'd have different relationships now. You'd have different experiences, and I'm not saying that it would be bad. It would just be different, And so thankful for what you have, thankful for the relationships that you have, and for the experiences that you've gotten. But, another one that I was also thinking about was, when we first met, it was actually through rapping, which is just hilarious. I was like, man, this guy's cool. I need to know this guy. But then I was like, hey, you should, come to our Tough Mudder. And of course, me, I invite people because it's what I do. I'm not afraid to ask, salesman, right? And you're like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, oh, all right, let's go. And so you went from not running at all to completing a 9-mile, 30 obstacle course in less than like 2 months. Not bad.
Yeah, that was fun. And now I'm trying to get back into weightlifting because I've been running so much.
How crazy is that thought? Something you probably thought you'd never say is I'm trying to get back into weightlifting because I've been running so much. When you were doing all the weightlifting and no running. And speaking of which, everybody, listen, hey, we got the inaugural Iron Minds Tough Mudder Charity Challenge coming up here. It's going to be October 29th in Granbury, Texas, just outside of Fort Worth, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's going to be awesome. If you go to toughmudder.com/Dallas and sign up for it. And then once you have your active.com account, you can then join our team called Iron Minds. And we're going to do the 9-mile, 30 obstacle course. But we're also going to have a second division. We're going to have the team doing the 3-mile obstacle course. So whether you want to do 9 miles or 3 miles, we've got options for you. And we're going to be raising money for an organization called Souk Strong. And this organization is raising money for ALS patients. And if any of you guys have ever known anybody with ALS, it's terrible, man. It's absolutely terrible. They know they're going to die. It's a terrible way to die. Their muscles just atrophy all over their body. And so we're going to be raising, our goal is to raise $10,000. And what they do is they give that money, all of it, directly to an ALS patient for end-of-life services that are not covered by insurance. So like accommodations around the house, technology so they can continue to communicate, wheelchairs, just everything that they need that insurance doesn't cover, unfortunately, for these types of things. So we're going to raise money. We're going to write them a check. They're going to then give that money to ALS patients here in the St. Louis area and other places as well. They're starting to expand outside of St. Louis as well. But we'd love for you to partner with us and to help out. Come join us for the race and or donate money. We'll have a link for donating money really soon. I need to follow up with them actually and do that and get that. They got a website they just created for this. And amazing story. My brother-in-law's mother-in-law passed away from ALS 4 years ago. She was diagnosed 10 years ago, lived for 6 years, which is crazy long time with ALS. But before she died, she told her kids, my brother-in-law being one of them now, that this has to continue and that they have to help people with this. And so they've honored that commitment and they've done this. We now have a golf tournament every year here in St. Louis to raise money. And I just wanted to, I wanted Beta Consulting Group to be a generous organization to give back and to be, be a generous organization. So we're going to do it. We're going to raise some money to help them out. And we'd love for you guys to be a part of what we're doing. So sign up for the Tough Mudder or support us with the donation once we have the link. We'll get all that on the website here really soon, which will be good. So, but like when you sign up for the Tough Mudder like that, that's crazy, man. That's fun.
It gave me a reason, dude. It kind of, like I said, it gave me a target and a goal, which kind of brings me to my question is, what is a rut and how do you get out of it?
Yeah.
And I think that, a simple way, I guess, to look at it that would apply to most is your goals or your whys are not in a line with what your daily behaviors are. So, or maybe you don't know what your motivating factors or what your goals are. You don't have anything to aim at, So it's like you feel incompetent, you feel unsure, lost,
Just
going through the
discontent.
motions, you name it. So I think the first step is one, realizing that like, okay, I'm not satisfied I'm not fulfilled at the end of the day. I'm feeling all these other negative feelings. And I think first and foremost, I mean, as cliche as it sounds, it's like you got to figure out why you do what you do. Why are you doing what you do? Why are you choosing a job that you're miserable at or that you don't believe in? Why do you choose to do that? Why do you choose not to take care of yourself? It's, my knees always hurt, my back hurts, I'm exhausted all the time. You reflect on like, okay, why do I feel that way? What choices have I been making to get to this point? I think like that's where that taking inventory comes in. You got to be really vulnerable with yourself because it's so easy to like justify or to make excuses, especially when they're uncomfortable, because like I can tell you something all day long and I can tell my wife something all day long, but at the end of the day, when my head hits that pillow, when I'm in the shower, I'm getting down, I'm looking at myself in the mirror, like you cannot lie. That inner voice that knows the absolute raw truth about everything about you. You can't hide from it. You can't lie to it.
Yeah.
And when that voice is calling you out and you know you've been living wrong, which is 95% of probably why you currently feel this way, you got to call yourself out. You got to take inventory and figure out, okay, like what has been taking up my time that is not serving me well, or my goals, my ambitions. And it's like, what are my goals and ambitions? Do I even have those? In the simplest way. And then you kind of got to reverse engineer it. Yeah. What do I need to do to get to that step, to get to this step? And you have to break it down.
And some people are like you, they're intense, they're all or nothing, which is probably a good thing. But some people are not like that. I think you have to understand who you are. And I think the biggest thing is this is what I've learned in all this, is that it's a lot easier to act your way into feeling something than it is to feel your way into action. And what I mean by that is you just take one step. Even if you don't know what the step is, just start taking one step. But here's the other thing that's really critical, and I think you would agree with this. Surrounding yourself with like-minded people, surrounding yourself with people maybe that are chasing after the same type of stuff, man, that is powerful. Because you get those mornings like this morning where you didn't want to wake up, but you did because you knew I was going to be here, and vice versa, right?
Yep. Or I am grotesquely sweaty and miserable right now, but I'm here. It's 106 outside.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. But you're here. And, even though this might not be where you want to be in terms of how you feel, you're going to be happy that you did this later on.
Yep.
But getting around like-minded people and just understanding human nature, understanding that it's a lot easier to act your way into feeling good about something than it is to feel your way into that action. That's a great way to get started. And to think about like one thing. So it's like, what's one thing that you can change today? Well, maybe it's like cutting soda out of your diet, or maybe it's saying, hey, we're only going to have dessert on Friday night moving forward instead of every night or 3 nights a week. Or maybe it's, hey, we're going to go for a walk every day. We're going to do a walk of 1 mile. Just start there, or whatever it might be. Like, just do one thing differently, build that win, and then compound, keep going when it gets to that,
You've got to find things that you feel the reward from doing. Because I think that's a lot of problem in the fitness industry is like, we live in an environment of instant gratification for one.
Right.
And it's like you said, surrounding yourself with like-minded people that you can get into the trenches with. There's that accountability factor there. Because if not, there's not a better salesman than that other voice in your head that tells you, oh, I'm gonna drink 3 sodas today, which has been my kryptonite lately. I've been drinking way too much Dr. Pepper after like literally 9 years of not having a single soda. I forgot how good those perfectly combined 23 flavors were. It's like crack, literally. But not having that, you become easily swayed by whatever's going on around you. And if you're already in that rut, you don't have someone to help get on a mission or get out of it. It will be a continued negative loop feedback cycle thing, which is a trap.
So, all right, let me tell you, here's my decision this week. Here's my commitment to you this week. All right. So you check me on this.
Okay.
I'm not going to have any soda this week. Mine is root beer. I occasionally have like the root beer, 0 sugars, Dr. Mark Manera. I do like the 0 sugars, but I'm going to cut it out. And here's why. It's not so much that root beer is bad for me. It doesn't have any calories and no sugar. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but I know that it's a trigger that leads to other bad things. Like when I have that, I want to have a brownie, or I want to have chocolate, or I want to have chips and salsa, or whatever it is. Like I want to have other things. So I know it's kind of a trigger for me. So I'm going to remove that this week. So check on it this week. Ask me this week. Anybody out there listening to this, ask me this week if I've had a root beer or any type of soda. I'm not going to have any this week. I'm just going to have just water. By the way, thank you to ArcBest. Look at this water bottle, man. ArcBest has the best swag, man. Best water bottle in the industry. Shout out to ArcBest and Samantha Jones and everybody over there at ArcBest. Awesome company. So anyways, hey, man, we're up on our 30 minutes. Always great to start the week with you.
Likewise.
Everybody else out there, Freight Sensei, thanks for watching, buddy. Everybody else, have a killer week. Get your mind right. Get your body right. Have a fabulous week, everybody. We'll see you next week for episode 16 of Iron Minds. We out.